Trap Gunner is a relatively obscure title for the PlayStation 1 that combines strategy and action. It was developed by Rakdim and published by Atlus in 1998. When the game starts up, there's a stylish anime intro that shows us the 6 main characters. From the main menu, you can access a tutorial which does a decent job of introducing the mechanics. The other choices from the main menu are Story, versus CPU, versus Player, Records, and Options. Interesting to note that the Options provides an autosave feature, something that wasn't common back then. Now I'm going to go ahead and play through Story mode, but first we just have to stop and take a minute to appreciate the absolute banger that is this game's character select music.
Searching for love.
And this game came out almost 2 years before Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Just saying. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the characters now. First up, we have Van Rally, and he looks like a prototype version of Dante from Devil May Cry, only a little younger and a bit more anime. Next is John Bishes, and he gets all the bishes. It says here that he's 35 years old and he's a middle-aged police lieutenant. Wait, 35 is middle-aged? Moving on, we've got Tico, thankfully not of the Rose variety, and she's a quirky, ice cream-loving droid developed by the CIA as a spy. After her, it's Lou Ritchie, no relation to Lionel Richie, and I think she stands out for 2 very big reasons. She's got 6 shots available and she carries 5 mines. What did you think I meant? Next up, we add some of that wicked, psychopathic flavor to the cast with Abdul Relin. She's a mutant juggalette who puts much clown love into setting her traps on the battlefield. And finally, we've got Tenro Ugetz. He's the cool ninja dude, and naturally that means he's the character that I'm going to pick. Okay, so the basic rundown of the story goes like this. There's a nefarious corporation called Gain, and they've developed a biotechnology called Cell 147. Gain and their technology have negatively affected the lives of all of the main characters in one way or another, to the extent that they're all driven to get revenge. So now that we've gotten through the story intro, let's go ahead and take a look at the gameplay. I'll start off by going over the 6 different types of traps in the game. There's the mine, which is pretty self-explanatory as it explodes when the enemy walks on it. There's the switch detonator, which is a remote explosive. Then there's the bomb, which only serves as a way to enhance the explosions of the mine and the switch detonator. The pitfall, which temporarily traps an opponent when they step on it. The force panel, which pushes the opponent in whichever direction it was set, and the gas, which is a timed device that releases a poisonous gas. You set these traps with the square button. If you hold in the triangle button, you can search for your opponent's traps. You can disarm enemy traps if you enter the correct sequence of buttons within the time limit. The circle button will perform either a ranged or melee attack depending on how close you are to the enemy. The X button is used as the trigger for the switch detonator, and you cycle through your traps with R1 and L1. The controls are straightforward and easy to get the hang of, which lets you move on to learning trap combos and strategies more quickly. Learning the strategies to using the traps doesn't take very long. For example, placing bombs next to your mines or switch detonators to deal extra damage. Or using a pitfall trap in conjunction with a well-timed gas trap, and using force panels to push your opponents into your traps, or to push them away from the pickup items. Speaking of pickup items, they appear throughout the map at designated spawn points. The items you can pick up are additional traps, a speed boost, protection, a health power-up, and something called the Unit. These pickup items can be pretty important, so it's a good idea to keep an eye on them and try to get to them before your opponent does. And as you may have noticed by now, keeping an eye on your opponent is pretty easy because the whole game is played in split screen, even if you're playing against the computer. This means you can see where your opponent is placing their traps, and I can only imagine how many arguments this started in two-player games over who was watching whose screen and cheating. Well, the other thing you want to keep an eye out for while you're screen cheating is if your opponent is about to get the unit. The unit is basically this game's BFG, and it will almost guarantee you a victory. It shoots a powerful energy burst that homes in on your opponent, and the only way they can avoid it is by standing under a platform. That platform will then be destroyed, meaning that no one can walk across it for the rest of the game. However, platforms are not in great abundance throughout most of the levels. The unit sounds overpowered, and it is a really strong weapon, but it's actually balanced out by a couple of smart design choices. First, the unit breaks if the person who's carrying it gets knocked down by an attack. And second, the unit doesn't usually appear in the level until the timer is about halfway or so. And oh yeah, I didn't mention it before, but the matches are timed. Story mode consists of 9 stages, with the 3rd and the 6th stage having special objectives. In the 3rd stage, you have to disarm all of the traps in the level within the time limit. And in the 6th stage, you have to retrieve 4 samples of Cell 147 while avoiding traps and obstacles. In between matches with other characters, you get dialogue between them that reveals more of the story. Once you get to stage 8, you'll fight one of 3 different sub-bosses depending on which character you've chosen. And then stage 9 is the final stage where you fight Stilb, the boss of the Gain Corporation. Now this isn't like a normal match because Stilb doesn't move around the map, he just stands in one place. This match can be a little bit tricky, especially since Stilb has his own unit that he isn't shy about using, but once you figure out the trick it really isn't that hard. And of course, as you would expect, every character has their own ending once you finish the game. The story mode is definitely worth replaying with different characters because each character has their own path. This means that the order in which you fight the enemies and the stages in which you fight them can be different depending on which character you chose. It's also worth multiple playthroughs because you can unlock the sub-boss characters by finishing the game with the main characters. The sub-boss characters don't have their own stories, but they're still worth unlocking, especially if you play a lot of 2-player. And speaking of 2 players, I think it's pretty obvious that this is a well-designed competitive game that offers a lot of replay value in that department. As fun as this game can be, it's kind of a shame that it's not more well known. I found out about this game because I had a subscription to PlayStation Magazine, and in their August 1998 issue, they showed Trap Gunner in the preview section. It's worth noting that in their preview they compare the game to Spy vs. Spy on the NES, and if you remember that game, I'd say it's an apt comparison. Anyways, based on this preview, I thought the game looked really cool, so I went ahead and bought it the next month when it was released. I wasn't disappointed back then, and all these years later, I think Trap Gunner still holds up as a good game. I like the anime art style and the overall presentation, and the game itself is very well designed and fun to play. I think it offers a lot of content and replay value, not just in the 2-player mode, but also in the single-player story mode as well. Plus it has the best character select music I've ever heard. Sorry, MVC2. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty good game, and if you're looking for hidden gems on the original PlayStation, then you should definitely check out Trap Gunner. Thank you for checking out the review. As always, if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button. And let me know what you think about Trap Gunner in the comments below. If you'd like to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. And until next time, you keep on playing those games. See ya!